and welcome into the backfield. I'm your host, Connor Schaff, and today I will be giving you my Week 3 college football playoff top 25. And I would say this was a bit of a return to form for college football this week. Last week wasn't bad, but I would say this week had some really fun games. Obviously, Texas A&M versus Notre Dame was an all-timer. That was a great game. Georgia Tech upsetting Clemson, obviously a great game there. Unfortunately, I think Miami USF, that was pretty underwhelming. LSU Florida was a little underwhelming. So we'll see if we can get a larger repertoire. Oh, and I totally forgot Tennessee versus Georgia, obviously. We have a lot of exciting ranked matchups coming up next week too. We'll talk a bit about that during the video. But I think there are some very exciting prospects in college football right now and some very exciting games to talk about. So we will get right into it. And before we do, though, I do want to make a quick PSA statement. I gotta be honest with you guys. I have some quite controversial takes in this video. Because I'm lazy and didn't want to stay up until 2 in the morning since I live on Eastern time watching college football games, then I did not record this video on Saturday night, and instead I'm recording it Sunday night after all the NFL games. So I have gotten to see the AP poll and people reacting to that, and seeing people's reactions to Notre Dame and USF and Clemson and Alabama, and yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit during the video, but I agree with the AP poll on some things and really disagree with it on other things. And I think a couple of the things that people are disagreeing with the AP poll on, I agree with this week, which is hilarious given last week all the controversy with Florida being ranked by so many people. I want to say there was the analyst that had Florida ranked higher than they had them ranked in week 1, even though they lost to USF. But yeah, we'll get right into it, and I'll explain my thought process a little bit. And we will start by talking about the teams that missed the cut. And there are a couple teams that we got to talk about here. Let's start with, let's just go down the list here. We'll start with Clemson. Clemson, they lose to Georgia Tech. I don't see a world where Clemson deserves to be ranked after that loss. I think that the issue is that Clemson did not only lose, they got comfortably outplayed, in my opinion, in both of the games that they lost. And we'll talk about that in comparison to a team that's also lost 2 games that I may or may not have ranked. And I look at this Clemson team. Cade Klubnik has not lived up to the hype that I think many people expected them of. And they also really struggled against a Troy team in week 2. So, keeping in mind, this Troy team got crushed by Memphis this past week. Memphis beat Troy significantly more comfortably than Clemson did. So I just struggle to see how this team fits into the top 25 at the moment. I have Arizona also. Arizona just don't deserve to be ranked right now with their resume. Alabama, completely disagree with people that have them ranked. In no world do you deserve to be ranked with the resume they have at the moment. You lose comfortably to Florida State, and you play garbage teams and you beat them like you should. I don't think that's a ploy to deserve to be ranked. Tulane I have here as well. Tulane gets the job done again against a Duke team that really doesn't look too great at the moment. I was pretty optimistic about this Duke team coming into the year, but they've now lost 2 games on the bounce. So Tulane, I think they are right on the outside looking in. And I think that this is a team that, with another win or 2, could be ranked. And they are very much in the thick of it for the college football playoff bid, as well as this other team, USF. Now, a bunch of people are complaining about why Notre Dame is ranked in the AP top 25, but USF is not. Well, looking at it in hindsight right now, we are 3 weeks into the season. We are 4 weeks into the season now. Some teams have played 4 games. I'm looking at you, Iowa State, which is the other big controversial one I have here. But we'll get to them in a minute. USF, they beat a Florida team that isn't sniffing the top 25 right now, and a Boise State team that's completely unproven. So these two teams I wouldn't put in my top 40 right now, maybe even my top 50. I think Florida probably makes the top 50, but I don't see how USF has why does it matter that they beat two ranked teams when the teams are ranked if the teams aren't actually good? If you beat the number 1 overall team in the country week 1 and then the team ends up going 0-12, there's nothing impressive about beating the number 1 team in the country week 1. So I don't really get that line of argument, so that's why they're not ranked for me. Baylor, they don't really do too much this week. They are just still here because of their game against SMU from last week, and they have a pretty exciting game against somebody I know. I'm going to quickly check who. They have a pretty exciting game next week against Arizona State. So yeah, my guess is one of these teams will end up being ranked after this next week because they're both right on the outside looking in. Then we have BYU. I feel bad a little bit because I had them ranked at 21 last week. And I kind of just realized, why do I have this team ranked at 21? So that's really all the logic I have for you there. They didn't play last week. And then Iowa State, maybe one of my more controversial takes. Obviously, Iowa State are ranked very, very highly in the AP poll. But I look at their season. Week 0, they beat a Kansas State team that is falling apart in front of our eyes. This is not a good team, Kansas State. And they just barely beat them. Then they go and beat a nobody team pretty comfortably in week 1. Week 2, they beat Iowa. That is comfortably their most impressive win. They also win it by only 3 points, I want to say, but it's still that is a good win. And then week 4, they go and barely beat an Arkansas State team that was beat by 40 by Arkansas the prior week. And I just struggle to see the appeal of this team as a top 25 team. I don't really care that they're 4-0. I look at them in comparison to how other Big 12 teams like Utah and Texas Tech and TCU have performed so far this season. And I've been much more impressed with those teams than I have been in Iowa State. So that is why I have Iowa State missing the cut. Let's move into 21 through 25. I've spent a lot of time on the precursor to this, so let's get into it. And we will start with number 25. I have Indiana. I was pretty much deciding between Indiana and BYU. They pretty much are the exact same, where they've played nobody good so far, but they're teams that many people have around the top 25 at the moment. Indiana plays Illinois this upcoming week. It'll be very clear to me after that whether Indiana's a good team or not. I want to say the game is at Indiana, so we really should have an idea of whether Indiana is a good team or not. And obviously it'll be in many ways the same for Illinois, who you'll see later in this video. But yeah, I think that'll be a very exciting game, and I think 25 is a pretty fair placement for a team that really hasn't played anybody but shows a lot of promise. Now we get into our tier 23 and 24 of teams that have beat teams that I thought were good and now have absolutely no idea if they're good. And obviously Florida State is a team that a lot of people have in their top 10 at this point, and I just cannot get behind that, because my question for you is, what has Florida State done that Mississippi State hasn't? And my argument is neither team should be ranked super high, so at least I'm being consistent. Instead of not ranking Mississippi State at all, I'm ranking Florida State in the top 10. Now, I'll be honest. In my preseason rankings, I had Arizona State ranked ahead of Alabama. I did not love this Alabama team, mostly because of Ty Simpson at the quarterback position, who, funnily enough, has been in many ways the least of their problems compared to their offensive and defensive lines. But Mississippi State, they beat a Arizona State team that I had ranked in my top 10. Obviously, I don't anymore. I've been quite honestly extremely disappointed with Arizona State so far this season. And yeah, I don't really see why Florida State and Mississippi State should be so far apart when, if you look at the preseason AP poll, Alabama and Arizona State were right next to each other anyways. So I don't really think it's fair to have the two teams so far apart, because you could argue in the same realm, Florida State pretty comfortably beat Alabama. Mississippi State pretty comfortably beat Arizona State. So I think it's pretty fair to have them at 23 and 24. But they're both teams very prone to moving up with another impressive one. Missouri we have at 22. Missouri gets the job done this week. They played Louisiana. Nothing really impressive to see here. They just get the job done. TCU doesn't play this week, so they just stick at 21. Obviously, their big win at the moment is their win over UNC. Nebraska, I have at 20. Nebraska just keep getting the job done at the moment. Nothing too crazy this week. But they also have a very exciting game where they will be playing a number 21, actually for me at number 17, Michigan. So we'll have a very top tier matchup for this weekend too, in the Big Ten. And I made my ESPN college pick'em picks. I actually have Nebraska winning since they're at home, so that'll definitely be interesting to see. But I really want to get into the controversial take because everyone on Twitter has been complaining, oh my gosh, the AP poll is the worst. How could you possibly have an 0-2 team ranked in the top 25? And it really depends on how you do your rankings, because I view my rankings a little more as a power ranking compared to, a power ranking and a resume ranking compared to like how the AP poll does it, where it's a popularity contest for the most part, and it's kind of just vibes that there's no formula to the AP poll. And I look at Notre Dame. Notre Dame has a 3-point loss on the road to a very, very good Miami team, a Miami team ranked in the top 10, or the top 5, in fact, and a 1-point last-second loss to a top 10 Texas A&M team. So realistically, honestly, now, okay, I will be the first to admit I'm a Texas A&M fan. I grew up being a Texas A&M fan, so I'm going to support them through and through. But in a lot of ways, you could argue that Notre Dame should have won this game because there was holding on Texas A&M's 4th down touchdown. And obviously, it doesn't matter in hindsight. At the end of the season, we're going to look at the fact that Notre Dame has a loss in that column, and it's not going to really matter. But I last season argued that South Carolina should have been a playoff team because they got screwed over against LSU and they should have been 10-2. In my personal rankings, I had South Carolina as a playoff team. And it's kind of the same way in this situation. I have no reason to think that Notre Dame is not a top 20 team. They have shown me that they can compete with top 10 teams. So why should I put them behind a team like now they aren't by so they're behind Florida State. Florida State has not proven themselves against anybody that has proven themselves against other teams. Neither has Indiana, neither has Missouri. So Notre Dame has the best strength of schedule after 2 games in the entirety of college football, and I don't think you should be punished for choosing to play in those games. So that I implore you to disagree with me in the comments down below. I'd love to get into some healthy debate about this. Yeah, just let me know what your thoughts are on it, and we'll go to move on. Number 18, I have Vanderbilt. I thought about not ranking Vanderbilt as high just because you could argue maybe they beat South Carolina because of Lenora Sellers' injury, but it kind of felt like it was trending in that direction anyway, and it was a 24-point victory, so you have to give them their plaudits. I think this season we might be moving back in the middle tier to SEC domination. I think Big Ten domination is at the top, then I think in the mid-tier, and you'll see this, I have a lot of SEC teams in the 8 to 20 range. I think I have, hold on, let me count in my head. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 7 SEC teams ranked between 8 and 18. I think I just did that math in my head correct. So, I think that this is the SEC ultra mid-year. So, but yeah, it is totally besides the point. Yeah, I think Vanderbilt, they deserve to be ahead of an 0-2 Notre Dame. As much as I have to give Notre Dame their plaudits still, I think Vanderbilt deserves to be ahead of them. And same thing with Michigan. Michigan gets the job done against some sort of group of 5 team this week. Can't remember exactly who, but they look pretty good. They, I think, won by 60 points on the dot. And really, we just need to see them in a game outside of the Oklahoma game. Auburn, I have at number 16. They are really clinging on at the moment to their Baylor victory. We'll see if they can beat a better opponent. I want to say they actually play Oklahoma this upcoming week, so that'll be a pretty amazing game, because if I go ahead and spoil it, I have Oklahoma at 15. So let me just check and make sure here. Yeah, so Oklahoma and Auburn play each other, my number 15 and 16 teams in the rankings. And yeah, I think that'll be a very, very exciting game. But yeah, Oklahoma's here at 15. They didn't really do anything too crazy over the weekend. They get the job done. They move on to the next one where they start conference play. At number 14, I have Tennessee. Now, Tennessee obviously comes out on the losing end against Georgia. But honestly, I'm more impressed with Tennessee coming out of this game than I was into the game, which is funny because I did still have Tennessee ranked at 14. More so just because I didn't really think there was too many other teams deserving around them. But maybe I should have Oklahoma at 14 and Tennessee at 15. Maybe that would be a little more fair. But I think Tennessee, they were literally a 45-yard field goal away from winning the game. And I think that deserves a lot of credit for a team that is really trying to come to their own at the moment. And let me just say, this is the best-looking Tennessee offense since at least Hendon Hooker. And honestly, the offense might be looking better than Hendon Hooker. Hendon Hooker was not able to put up 41 points on Georgia's defense. Now, maybe this Georgia defense just isn't up to par with past Georgia defenses, but yeah, I think Tennessee deserves a lot of credit for this game. Number 13, we have Ole Miss. Ole Miss beats Arkansas over the weekend. They have now beat 2 SEC opponents on the bounce. This has been a great start to season for an Ole Miss team that I think was really unproven, and I think they very much deserve their top 15 ranking. Then we have the battle of the top of the Big 12 with Utah and Texas Tech, where they will be playing this week, and I am so angry that College Game Day is not going to Utah versus Texas Tech, because I feel like it's such a... No, this is the problem. When Utah and Texas Tech are way down in the AP poll, it doesn't look as exciting as a game as I feel like it is. I think this game determines a team that is easily a top 10 team in my rankings. So we'll see, but they both played nobody's. I think Utah played Wyoming. I don't remember who Texas Tech played, but they both got the job done. They both looked fine. So now we move on to our top 10. We're at number 10. I have Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech obviously gets the big win over Clemson. I already had Georgia Tech a lot higher than most people did. I had them at number 19 based on their Colorado victory in week 1, which turns out might not be as impressive as I thought. But this win over Clemson, I think, is as impressive as I thought. And yeah, I think this Georgia Tech team is very good. And I think this Georgia Tech team is a contender for the playoffs. I think Haynes King, after 3 weeks, may just be the Heisman favorite. This guy has been unreal. Keeping in mind, I haven't watched a lot of full games straight through, but I pretty much watched the entirety of Georgia Tech Colorado because it was on a Friday, and Georgia Tech Clemson because it was the only good game in the 12 o'clock window. So Haynes King has looked ridiculously good, especially on the ground, and I think this guy is going to be a Heisman contender, and I think this Georgia Tech team is going to be very good. Now, I gotta be honest, I almost wanted to move Texas even lower in my rankings, but I couldn't do it and serious thought, because I just think there is quite a tier break at number 9, just based on resumes at the moment. I still think only losing by 1 score to Ohio State still looks pretty good at the moment. I actually dropped Ohio State down in my rankings a little bit. We'll get to that in a minute because of how awful Texas has looked. And I just don't... There's something going on with Arch Manning at the moment, and hopefully you figured it out, but I just don't know if I can confidently say this team can be a contender in the SEC with how they're playing right now. It's the second week in a row that they've really struggled on offense. This time against another not great opponent in UTEP. So I just don't know. Number 8, we have Texas A&M. I think it's pretty fair. Texas A&M gets a massive win and they move up to number 8. I don't really think they deserve to be any higher, but I think it's pretty fair to have them ahead of Texas based on how Texas has been performing. Then at number 7, I have Illinois. Illinois gets the job done once again. They shut out their opponent. Don't remember who they played once again, to be honest with you. Maybe Central Michigan? I'm not 100% sure. Don't quote me on it. But yeah, they moved to 3-0, and really their big test is this week against Indiana. LSU is not 1-0. I think they're 3-0, actually. I just forgot to update the graphic there. It's better than last week when I didn't have any of the graphics updated, or at least for the records. Everything else was. But LSU, I don't really remember who they played either, but they get the job done. They win the game, and I think they're a little bit harmed by Clemson's struggles, but they still beat a good team on the road. I think we can pretty comfortably say Clemson is at least a good team, and they still beat them on the road. Oh wait, I'm so stupid. LSU beat Florida this week. The issue is Florida doesn't look very good, and DJ Lagway threw 78 interceptions in the game. I think I recall that correctly. So I would say that's pretty fair. And then we have my top 5. We'll move through these pretty quickly because there's not too much change. As I mentioned before, I moved Ohio State down just because Texas hasn't looked too good. You only beat them by 1 score at home, so I really want to see them against a better opponent. And will we in this upcoming week? We won't see them play at all. So yeah, they're probably going to stick it out at number 5 no matter what happens, unless one of these top 4 teams loses. Georgia obviously beats Tennessee. I think I encapsulated the game well in when I was talking about Tennessee, but I think it's very impressive for Georgia to go on the road and beat this Tennessee team. I think there are a lot of concerns with Georgia's defense after that game, but I think the offense bounced back really well after their performance against FCS opponent Austin Peay 2 weeks ago. Miami, I have at number 3. They crushed USF. Everybody's a heartwarming story over the first 2 weeks of the season. I think they comfortably are a top 3 team at the moment. Oregon are at number 2. They got the job done again. Nothing really super crazy this week. I think really the big thing I'm looking at is their week 2 performance against Oklahoma State. That's honestly exceptional. And then Penn State, I've had it number 1 since the preseason. I've had no reason to switch it up. I just trust this team more than any other team at the moment until proven otherwise. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. I know I had a lot of controversial takes in this video, so make sure to let me know what you agree with, what you don't agree with, and give me your top 25 rankings, or maybe if you want to just do your top 10, that works too. But I want to thank you guys so much for watching and sticking through this video. Make sure to like, subscribe, interact with this video in any way you can. It all helps the channel, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.